Hello all and welcome to Screenworks. I'm John Uriarte, curator of Screenworks with the Photographers Gallery in London. And together with Marco De Mutis, digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland, we created this collaborative program of fortnightly live stream events in April 2020. Screenworks was created with the aim to investigate the changing role of photography on its network and algorithmic forms. Each of the events are hosted by artists, curators, researchers, or any other people engaging with digital visual cultures, and they can range from internet touristic tours, sharing in-depth research projects, showing the behind the scenes of a particular artwork, or live performing the network, as today. If this is your first time attending live or watching a recording of a Screenwork, we invite you to take a look at our archive, which includes more than 70 events so far. I also want to take the opportunity to announce that we have updated and upgraded our website. We are really excited and happy and celebrating the new website designed by super designer Leonardo Angelucci, who has done an amazing job. The archive of all our events now can be explored not only by date or artist name, but also, and more importantly, through series of tags and filters, which make it way more easy to navigate. So please take some time to check it out at screenworks.com. And thank you so much, Leo, again, for the wonderful work you've done with our website. Finally, please remember that, that if you have found Screenworks, if this is not your first time and you have found Screenworks useful for your professional or personal interest, consider subscribing to Folders, which is our subscription model. For €7, you will support the program and its artists, and also get personalized folders on folders.screenworks.com. There you will receive files and extra content from the artists and researchers from Screenworks. And now some housekeeping information. Your microphone should be muted to avoid noise disturbances. If it is still on, please mute it now. We are recording and we will be archiving this event. So please use the public chat to ask questions, or feel free also to send a private message to Marco or to myself.
And hello from my side too. I am Marco De Mutis, digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur. Screenworks, as John said, can be many different things and follow many different formats. Yet one thing that we feel connects all of our events is the idea that all of these digital and online spaces are there to be performed and explored, used and misused politically and poetically in ways that are not necessarily the ones intended by the companies and studios who develop them. So hardware or software, desktops or browsers, they become tools to be reappropriated and reclaimed by artists, researchers, curators, designers, and creatives worldwide. The screens are made for walking. And today, we are honored to host the premiere of a desktop performance that promises to summon abandoned and vestigial technologies that have been replaced in name of some efficient, productive internet. Pop-ups and feedback loops will unfold in a symphony of tabs, windows, and browser histories in Chia Amisola's work. Considering hypertext as a mode of performance as much as a medium, their work Internet Ambient turns the surveilled and violent online landscape into a symphonic cybernetic ecology. Unfolding self-preservation as a practice of communal preservation, repetition as ritual, and the website as a site, you're all invited to a desktop performance of around 40 minutes, which will be followed by a Q&A with the artist. After the event, Amisola will go to sleep to further perform new dream sequences at randomly announced times on the Screenworks Twitch channel. So make sure to subscribe to Screenworks on Twitch if you want to be notified automatically when the artist will perform live again in the next few days or nights. Chia Amisola is an internet and ambient artist, originally from Manila. They are the founder of Develop, a Filipino critical technology institute founded in 2016. And the editor and curator behind the Philippine Internet Archive, stewarding Filipino internet histories and counter-narratives. Amisola's work, talks, and performances have been shown internationally and have been featured in The New Yorker. They received a BA in Computing and the Arts from Yale University in 2022. Dear Chia, Thanks so much for being here with us today. The screen is yours.
Thank you again, John and Marco. Thank you for inviting me and for having me. I just wanted to first give a bit of context over the performances I'll be sharing. I'm experimenting with showing a mix of 3 works, so we'll see how this works out. One of them I released earlier in this year, and the other 2 are still unreleased and are in the works. And these performances, I think, have been interesting and fun for me to do because they're generative in some way. There's a lot of randomness in it. Their reading has been different and unique every time I performed it. And also just wanted to share that these are pieces you can eventually experience on your own desktop later on. So they're available. I think about them as a mix between games and interactive fiction and just traditional hypertext pieces on websites. During this performance, I'll be obviously sharing my desktop. I'll also be reading, I'll be clicking, and simultaneously, I will be playing music for you all to soundtrack this. So you can't see my desk, but there's a lot of cables here. When I woke up from a violently tender dream, I dwindled in bed and thought about why we always think about the end. To pity the life I had, the unlived thing it was. To savor what was around me, every unknown part of it. To regret what I changed and did not. It was a simple dream. Your steps were familiar. I never really learned them. It was just recognition and me. And bodies, glimpses of heads, glimpses of our hands, locked somewhere for 100 days. You're following me. It was walking towards myself. Everyone was around me, us. I never really learned. There's nothing but us. It was just recognition. We believe in those things, where we look ahead, but are really just looking at each other. When you were walking towards me, it was walking towards myself. I suppose this is always what happens. We just looking at each other. We are just looking at each other. This is what happens in practice. Every look away is to look again. Every moment apart is to come again. When we are looking around us, we are actually looking at each other. When we love ourselves, we do this for each other. Do you know, the holiest I felt was in the middle of the nothing. That's when you really feel like you're surrounded by everything. I created what was unseen. I created what we all became. I created nothing that became. I made history itself. I made history matter. I made nothing but the present. I made life inseparable from the present. I separated attention and desire. I separated necessity from love. I made you for myself. I made agency and undid myself. I approached prayer, and then I exploited prayer. I made everything important, and still everything wise. I made nothing in my image. I made nothing of myself. I made everything. I gave myself everything. I declared this was everything. I made meaning when there was none. I made nothing everything, and somehow you named and became everything else that was missing. I was in a sea of strangers, an infinite crowd. All at once, the world was coming on to me. I was calling for someone to help. Someone. Why the time? This is just a dream. Wake up now. Go to sleep. Wake up. When will you wake up? Aren't you dreaming? Are you dreaming? Do you see yourself dreaming? Are you awake? Are you waking? Sleeping? Hallucinating? When are you getting up? Do you know that you're dreaming? This is just a dream. Why would I? I was calling, never, I don't care, someone to suffer as a sacrifice. One must die 1,000 times before. Why the time? Don't know. Know what it means? Is this necessary? Are you seeking it? Do you believe that I've loved you? Do you need yourself? Who needs you? Why in this time is purpose found? Why me? Why yourself? Why us? I asked them, are you remembering? Are you empathizing, saving, loving, disgusted? Are you empathizing, weeping, loving, saving, hurting, convulsing? Are you laughing? Are you disgusted? Are you aware? Are you saving? Judging, hurting, discriminating, empathizing. Every face in a dream has been seen before. Everyone I can imagine, I have already spaced myself. To know each body in the world, I have faced each of you. Myself, naked and vulnerable, and all you wincing and generalized, such that my reconstruction is as true as any being. Look at me, partitioning lost society before I have even awoken. I saw you in the field. Everything empty was whole. We named everything that was not named. Nothing born would think that repetition was a sin. Before us did not come life, for it was always there. I cried so hard. Every box in the middle of the grocery store, I felt all my senses exploding, so depleted by this world, so enamored of what we have become, to all the colors, all the ways we sent things to each other. I saw myself looking. I saw you picking beer. I saw the workers laughing. Every carton, every container, every vessel, every form, every fact, every ingredient list, every expiry date, every lid, every loose thing placed by human hand, every machine made by the work of human hand, every tin can, every wrapper, every paper bag, every jar, everything unopened, everything I'd never touch, everything expensive, everything rough, everything novel, everything the same, every roll of paper, everything that sat there for decades, every note of home, every cent, each loose box, everything I once took for granted. A milk carton, an envelope, a plastic bag of plastic bags, all the processed bread, a dried bouquet, a pack of fancy tonic, the soap that they carved in front of us, a potted bunch of parsley, a miracle of life in itself, a compression of life in all of these boxes, a bit of us in between. We talked about connection, what it means. By wanting connection, we sever ourselves from it. What it does for us. By wanting, we sever. If I really need it. We must have talked about history. Whatever of it we owned. In college, I wrote about every war but my own. What would it take to make and unmake history? I must have learned such deep remorse for these bodies. It takes two to forget a memory. When I left my country, the nation became a ghost. What did my life become? What's saving? Where did I go to manufacture all this blood on me? Why wouldn't anybody tell me what I could salvage? Christ didn't think about the already forgotten. The night, it was the third hour of the night. Jesus was crucified by all who claimed to love him. Before one is born, one must suffer. My purpose was to die for all you gentle loving sinners, little men sinners, little girl sinners, all who are sinners. As the night came, as you took the body and the cloth weaving itself, into dust, into agony, into itself, came a miracle. So the body devoured, rotting. So faith was everywhere. Remember, don't be remembered. Pray, accept your death, and the work of saints must be the work of the end. Who saves us? Tell me, Jesus, who the holy things are, will die for me, but me. What does it mean to be crucified in the age of all those who sin? Into the fire and the water, I imagine my modern day drowning. In this infinity I had all the time. I was here, facing everyone I knew, the summation of me and a little boy, 12 girls carrying the picture of me, the backstabber, the murderer, the angel. They carried my body before, and they all became my body. There was myself in the face of every person, the way the image of God is cast upon all of us, every stranger, a familiar face, a potential stranger, neighbor, daughter, companion, donor, ancestor, potential plights, potential component, the partner, the pioneer. They all carry the capacity of humanity to become another, to come together, to carry one. Always, I'm becoming the image of man, the one next to me. The partitioning of people and the parting of the self to peace in yourself, from holding within me the history of people becoming people, of myself and everyone. Take my name, give it a new purpose, give the label to another. I wondered why we were here, and everything was a replaceable thing. I cried too easy about what we do to human lives. The world moving through me, I was still. Only I declare what I've lost. Everything I gave myself could be taken away. At any moment, we could declare what this was. Everything mundane was all I needed. But there's something deeper than judgment, and desire runs deeper than truth. It feels like we are lifetimes. What could we give each other in this finite world? The truth is what comes beyond seeing. I saw this life in my head. I saw what it was becoming. What do people do for each other? Then intuition seeded to the heart, and everything optional is why it might be so grand. What do we try to become but each other? Why in this life? How much of this life do we dictate what we can? And why in this time? Why couldn't I come up with a better answer? Why couldn't I make any sense of it? Why couldn't we have made up an answer? Why couldn't I ask another question? Why does it have to have an answer? I wanted to see an open field that I did not have to live in. I wanted to know the ground, to truly know it. I wanted to bow to something, even if I had to make religion myself. I wanted you. In many ways, I wanted myself. I present no alternative creation myth. This fickle symbol of peace is why I hang saints and flags upside down. I'm making the baby cry, making it hunger for the divine, making its first desire of drowning. In my dreams, the birds are always screaming. They're signaling the wars, the west, the wind calling their throats, in an atmosphere that slowly suffocates us over lifespans. Its wingspan blotted out, a liberal consequence of desire, of flight, of failure, of countries, of an atrocity we still have no word for yet. In effect, the bird is no smaller than a cathedral. Faith can be pointed in wings and juries. They coax birds, as do people. The simple mind of a saint can be likened to the dove, can be likened to the default of institutional suffering. In tandem, the birds piece themselves together. Do you watch the light scatter before it was a clayman force? Unownable, he bowed the world to the world because he so cradled all the lands. Here I saw the end of religion. They were all crumbling down. Statues and sacraments all surrendered. No more rites, no more sin imparted to the born and unborn. All were forgiven, yet no one was forgiven. Humans preach to humans still. Of course, no one could stop this. Of course, the God was the living thing. I wanted to stop asking to be seen with every gesture. I wanted a record of myself that I didn't keep. I wanted harmony. I wanted reason. I wanted a feeling when there was none. I wanted to look up towards something bigger than myself. I wanted to believe in people again. I wanted a room where I didn't have to convince everyone that no being was an irredeemable thing. I wanted to honor failure. I wanted a language for forgetting. I wanted my childhood and all the people that were lost there. I wanted what people saw in God. I wanted to make miracles where there were none. I wanted to fall into a deep sleep and never see what I was going to become. I wanted everyone I loved next to me. I carved something where there was none. We fought about what everyone else was inherent. I watched myself cut into myself. Nothing deeper would come out. I watched myself put the knife away. It was almost like an act of forgiveness. I watched myself draw blood anyway. I thought this must be what religions are made of. I never had to face a belt, but I did have to face a gun. Our arms locked. There must have been laughing. There we were, so small, and so rugged and alive. And me. I always knew since it's becoming never necessitated me. Only what you have become to me. Why is this simple thing so impossible? Can you tell me what I am? Can you speak? This just might be returning. It's in this disappearance that everyone has everything. It's never felt like it. This becoming never necessitated. I don't know how you do it. Language, rationale, resonance, belief, death. At the end, it was just me in the dining room, and I could not feel hunger anymore. My parents asked me why I wrote another drowning story. Touch, reason, contentment, saviorism, holding, slowness, a sermon, pessimism, pattern. After all, I wanted the image of running towards each other. I carved it out, moving towards each other, sinking towards each other, being towards each other, living towards each other, wishing towards each other, loving towards each other. After all, what could we become with salt and flesh again, and skin and people on the ground? And what if we were always just patient towards each other, wandering towards each other, coming towards each other, doing towards each other? I knew since I saw us, I wanted the image of it always. I knew I wanted everything but, always becoming something new to each other. What if we were always just becoming forgiving towards each other, looking towards each other, infinite towards each other, converging towards each other? I simply asked, would you love me? And you simply answered, you've always known me. I picked you. 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 There I was in the sea, emptying myself toward nothing. An act of holy dissolution. There I was trying to become God of something, of anything. Then I saw my friends die. Then I saw my strangers die, and never having known them hurt more. Then I saw myself die, and I asked, why didn't I die first? Then I told you, you didn't know me. More precisely, that there was nothing to know. But if there was nothing, there can become something. Could you honor the history of people making people? Would you take the belief? Could you hear the cry of despite killing, of despite living? Would you make the attempt? Could you take my word? Can you take this moment? Where would I place meaning? Of the living who are here, of succumbing to each other, of outliving fate, of doing this again? How else can I hold the truth? Why would you believe? Of repetition against all reason? Would you sedate the truth of mindless belief? Would you face the part of blind faith? Could you carry the burden of a history of choice? Can you stand this weight with me? Of fate that we draw ourselves, of people and people, would you cherish the fact of fate as our own making? In bed, I was falling in loops, my body weightless. All the air wrapped around me. I thought if I was a landscape, what could I hold? I was a monument. What shape would my body extend to? How can the image of myself become greater? Then I could shelter so much more. Falling. Everything that bowed to us was never ours. Everything we bowed to must have became ours. I watched everything I let go come back to myself in the most absurd, cliche way possible, the most humiliating moment. I swore at everyone who has ever written, dreamed. Why do we humiliate ourselves into being? Justify, gaze, all itself hoped. You upon a lesson of being here, transience and time and being. cultivated myself. I invited everyone to come see what had become of me, and this making of a place was always about dwelling, inhabiting you such that you would inhabit me. I transposed the stars to life, to attempt to assemble life from life, failed to recognize that life always first spawns on its own, that my life is predicated only partially on the birth giver, and the aftermath is all my own doing. I do not carry the sins of my mother, but I carry the weight of these generations, and I carry her in the holiest, and I too carry the weight of the stars. It took eons, it took you, it took lifetimes, it took my friends. I woke up from a violently tender dream. I saw myself off at the station, where I leapt off quickly onto the tracks. I hugged myself goodbye and tucked a letter in my pocket. I told me to text me when I arrive, and to call if I get lost, and to text me when I land, and to write this number at the back. I waited forever. I waited for a minute. I waited for a day. I waited for a night. I waited for a month, for a quarter, for a semester, for a year, an annal, for decades, for centuries, for millennia. I was frustrated at times. The horse is dying. I killed the horse. The horse has been dead since long ago. Languages have many words for dead horse. We lack the linguistic imagination to kill things. When humans die, they gain new names. We only truly run when we see death. Let me tell you about the myth of adrenaline. I climbed in to another dream. I said I wanted emergence. I said I wanted something evident, or I wanted to be self-evident. Often I try to get up screaming, so this was no exception. Someone told me about the saints and all the wives they held, and another, the history of divorce, along with the myth of persistence. The tracks turned into rope, and I was just spinning into a mountain of fumes every time I took a breath. I must have been the cause of every ill in the world. I must have been a mouthful. Most when I ripped out my tongue, I told you my memory was failing. I could not remember my dreams, but all I did, I wanted a novel death. What would you know about severance or connection? All have become irrelevant things, just as what I make is what I fasten in front of me when I write about the unloved things. With such affection, I'm talking about me. If I make everything, it slips from me. If I tend tender things, the gentleness goes and takes from me something, just as the human history is that of taking and taking and taking and taking from one another, until there's nothing left to take Nothing from this body could be holy. Nothing gentle goes home without thrashing, under dim insistence, under cruel intention, against everything known. I ease my heart with wounding, everything with intensity. I never took my body lightly. All the breaking is tradition. You are always excavating yourself. We're always recovering the other. My insides were rotting, as was all around me, the world disappearing infinitely. I'm indulging, bite, chew, swallow, spit, grind. Brush. Digest is a human thing. Everything with intensity never seems to numb. Thought I buried this body long ago, in the streets of Manila, under the stack of poems left under their side table, with the letters from everyone I loved, where we were just figuring out each other until we determined the other was no longer a lovable object. The miracle in my upbringing must have been some sort of resilience. They tell us courage in 7 different languages, and I say no in 10 different ones. I put a bounty on my joy and watched as it withered. I slept next to the image of fire so often that when I closed my eyes, the clouds engulfed and the flames tore. Sound of silence in the forest. Tell me a gentle dream where I can choose to wake. My friends getting married, my dog living another year. I want everything that hums to sing us to sleep. Dig in the garage, the miracle of old age, the joy in the aisles, kissing on the countertop, laughter that breaks the ribs, the way we fold against grain, the internet that lets me tell this story to you. That was just once in my head as some miracle. Of the stars, or the dancing of time, I forgive myself, and I forgive you. I saw every path, taken and untaken. I saw how we laid, brick after brick, what must have been done to let us meet here. When the universe carried us and learned the history of these roads and carried you under, when the moon landed, when I paved you into myself, when they laid these roads, when we didn't know what was to become, and everything that needed life lost life, and man came atop of man, when the skies blackened, when religion was made of trees, and the earth was made for us. This life taken for us, no one needed miracles. When history became ours, I saw the universe on the rail outside my apartment. My brutal humanity splay for everyone to walk on. And it was everything I had ever asked for. When I said, if you knew me, would you love me? I just meant know me until we can't help but love. At the end of the world, let there be you, my world. When I've cut myself off from everything, I just keep finding myself. Everywhere I keep running into myself. Everywhere a surprise, I left myself. I dream of eating sugar. I dream of seeing my mother. I want to hear my grandmother. Feed bread. I dream of breaking the siege. I dream of my father returning. I dream of eating a chicken sandwich. I dream of eating shawarma. I dream of my father going back to the way he was. I dream of the camp going back to how it was. I dream of the road opening. I also dream of the road opening. I dream of my brother coming back to life. I do. I dream that my brother is alive again because I miss him so much. We are only moving towards each other. There's so much to do. I want to sit basking in the grocery, arguing what's over in the fridge. What a joy it is to be hungry and to know how I'll be fed. Street food, picket signs, abandoned malls, my country's culture manifested in a church inside a shopping mall. The statues of saints for sale on the sidewalk, and the funeral next to the lottery ticket stub. What a nation taught me about love and where it took me in its aftermath. The freed prison cells, people stacked on each other, how even murderers pray, what they might think when they see our eyes, or what's on television today. When we watch movies about people who are nothing like us and cry harder when they're just like us. Unfamiliarity is so uncomfortable as it becomes self-confrontation. I want to celebrate a life and say that this was one lived. I want to repeat circumstance instead of remaking the past. I want to learn the language I need when I have failed, to correct the Bible and steal what's left in hotel drawers, to feel myself a good thing without having to be told. I took to the subject of the sun, you in the dawn. When I woke up from a violently tender dream, I texted you that I just got out of bed. It's another day to know each other, and we don't have to think about how it ends. My friends are all my lovers. I'm the product of everyone I know. I'm everything that has come back to me, and everything that couldn't end. What part of history am I in but the one I make? And here you join me too. What a gift it is to dream and wake and see and make and believe, place, love, gaze, cry, speak, adore, wonder, bless and pray, desire and write and wither and say and sob and hurt and suffer and defy and labor and hold and build and linger, forget and live and sleep and to do it all again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chia. It feels even rude to talk about the wonderful performance It's been amazing. It's been super interesting to see and really nice to see how you are able to like poetically use and interpret not only the media but also like all these technologies. I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been really, really nice. I hope that the audience has done it too, and I can see like some good like encouraging messages on the chat.
Yeah, let me join them as well in thanking you, and maybe reading some of them. Jen Leong, this was absolutely absorbing. Thanks, it was so powerful, from Natasha. Thank you for performing it online. This was a masterpiece and still is, by Nicole. So a lot of great messages coming in. Yeah, thanks a lot from me as well. I wanted to ask you, actually, maybe I was so curious to know what's going on behind the screen, because when we were doing the test, I know that you're also operating the sound live, and of course you're performing live on the screen. So could you tell us a little bit about what's going on and how elaborate this is?
Yeah, I can give a brief rundown of the setup. I mean, I have 3 separate pieces that started in 3 of the Mac desktops. And all the sounds you hear, the piece says don't inherently have audio. So on my desktop, I'm playing my Monomi Norns in grid, and I have a hologram microcosm pedal. And I spent an hour before this, I was mentioning to them, hooking these children up to my laptop and running Ableton, routing it through there, and trying to figure out how to send it through Zoom, which is really hard. But I'm glad I figured it out. Also, I'm very new to like playing live music for the performances. It's always been kind of like messy, but and also different each time. I mostly just do sample looping. The grid controller you saw is just like me rotating over like 6 audio files and adjusting pitch and speed. So I just play with those as I go through.
Wow, incredible. So, and you are doing all of this at the same time. I was just wondering also, because we talked about this, and I think at the beginning you showed the work as accessible also outside of the performances, but so it can be actually accessed by online users by clicking on the links that you showed. How do you go about creating the performances? Because you have, of course, also the music, but then the reading on top of the existing interactions that are in the browser itself, and the text and the images inside the browser tabs and pop-ups.
Yeah, I'm gonna send links in the chat of the 2 pieces here that are already online. That pink and black piece, the main one I was reading, We're Only Moving Towards Each Other, is available at When We Love Moving. I released it at the start of the year, just like self-published it online. I think of it as like a game, an interactive fiction piece. And I initially didn't get into like performing web-based work until maybe midway through the year. Catherine, who's also in the chat actually, and I did a publication called the HTML Review, and they, thanks to Catherine's prompting, had scheduled a reading, a live reading of the pieces, which is very interesting because it just like prompts a question: how do you read a website? I didn't perform the piece that I made there, but then figuring out how to like compose them for live audiences has always been interesting. And there's always like a lot of, I guess, like hidden attributes and kind of randomness embedded in my work. I describe, for example, We Are Only Moving to each other as a concrete browser poem, just because you can see as I like reconfigure the windows, and each pop-up or the way you click through them is random and like gives you new compositions each time. In total, the piece is like about 15,000 words, but because there are so many permutations of certain scenes, it's a different way of experiencing it each time. I noticed that, and I was intentional about that in making the work, and the HTML review prompted me to like figure out how to present work like this and to continue doing it. And then honestly, just watching playthroughs of people going through, we were only moving to each other, especially in like game settings and contexts, made me see like, wow, everyone is like going through this and not going through the whole piece. So why don't I just like perform it? And it's fine if I do it repeatedly because it's like different each time. It's fun for me. Yeah, maybe in the future, my dream is like for someone else to go through it, as long as they, I guess, know the way to get through the piece, and for me to soundtrack it behind them, or to do vice versa. But yeah, it's kind of like where the ideas for these came from.
You also mentioned that you did, well, you just said that you've performed this like with live audience, with audience in the room, but this was like the first time that you sort of adapted it for an online audience. And I was thinking in what like challenges or like things, opportunities, I don't know how the adaptation into a like live online performance brings to the piece. What do you think that as Kingworks is basically about like live performing the network online?
Yeah. I initially like only wanted to do these, or I was mostly confident about doing these performances in live settings because it just feels like you have more control in physical space. Like the projector, I also play with that, and I can like hide through the work if something glitches. There's like more you can do if something is like stutters or pauses or goes wrong in a way, and you have like physical support. Whereas in an online space, I was kind of afraid to do it because it's basically just me and me like maybe frantically DMing you guys to like debug and troubleshoot. There's that, and also like some of the technologies are also just kind of like easier to route through in physical space. Like obviously my synth setup can get more elaborate in real time, but it's kind of like complex to do it because of my material constraints in desktop spaces. And also like I was also thinking of it as like I wish the online experience was something that was accessible, or there was something left up to every single person experiencing the piece. Because I mean, I leave them up a line. It's like up to them to, I don't know, go through it on themselves and figure it out. And then the live thing, it's more of like, okay, together we will like go here and read. Some of the pieces also have participatory elements. In the Twitch ones, I will be adding that in the chat, and dropping in links and QR codes. I think those have especially been fun to do with more constrained groups of like live audiences where I can see and prompt people live. But yeah, it's been challenging and very fun because I'm very shy.
I think that the audience in Zoom is still recovering from the experience, so I'll let them take a couple of minutes to formulate their questions. In the meantime, I wanted to ask a little bit more about, so you talked about concrete poetry just briefly, and maybe also generative art. Maybe you could share, like the inspirations also behind your work, and where do you look at in terms of both poetry or art, yeah, when you kind of like, where do you take inspiration to create your works and the performances?
Yeah, I think most of my influences, I read a lot of very long form poetry with a lot of enjambment. Like my favorite poetry book is Frank Stanford's The Battlefield Where the Moon Says I Love You. And I remember I discovered it when I was like in middle school or something because someone said on Wikipedia, this is like the longest poetry book there is, or longest singular piece or something like that. I don't know if that still holds true. And it just stunned me narratively also. It was very personal, very erotic. I just like long and dense and verbose things, which maybe comes across in the work also because it's very hypertextual. For work that is like born digital, I'm very inspired by Porpentine's work. Porpentine Charity Heartscape is I think their full name, who does a lot of like very crazy, grotesque in the most nice way possible, like interactive fiction pieces that deal a lot with like sexuality and queerness and just like amazing like speculative themes. So there, two main inspirations.
Thanks.
I was also curious to, I mean, maybe it's separate for this project and for the performance that you did, but maybe if you could explain us a little bit about the Filipino Internet Archive in which you were also involved, just in case there's people in the audience who is not familiar also with the project?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have been my encounters in the tech and art world trace back mostly to 2016. I started an organization, you mentioned in my bio, called Develop, which is this like Filipino Critical Technology Institute. We say that to sound proper, but we're just like a collective of friends who have done like lots of programming over the past years and have released a lot of artifacts from archives and indexes and campaigns helping like progressive politicians in the Philippines to also hosting like dozens of workshops and talks and lectures, especially during the COVID era, with a lot of emerging technologists. And that has like been my life for the past 7 like years, basically. And at the beginning of the year, I was kind of like experimenting with going further into art, and developing like maybe an individual artistic practice. And with Develop, I saw kind of like an intertwine now with my art creative interests and its mission to being one about digital preservation overall. So you can see that there are lots of themes in my pieces about just like memory and decay and whatnot. And I understand that by making work on the web, it means like making work that is very temporal and is like doomed to decay unless I maintain it. So the Philippine Internet Archive is this new like research and publishing initiative that we started where we are doing the work of interviewing a lot of like Filipino tech pioneers. So a lot of people in the academic scene or people who are working in industry, mostly infrastructure. We're active in like the early 90s. And we are also working with a lot of Filipino artists, helping them create new media pieces. So we have this online exhibition coming up sometime in 2024.
Nice.
It's a lot of new net art pieces by Filipino artists that I'm excited about.
Nice. We'll be
Awesome.
looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I received a question from Catherine that asks, I would like to know since when Chia started to code, do the sounds, and at which age, and who are her heroines? Lots of questions in one question.
Yeah. When I started to code, I remember making websites as early as like age 7. I'm 23 now, so it's been a bit. And it's because I was like left with unrestricted access to computer and my parents were like, I don't know, busy at work. And I was a very repressed child. So all I did was like go online and look at like Pokemon fan sites and stuff. And I remember just like hosting my own things on like on like blogging sites, but also like HTML site builders. So I would like host a lot of fan sites on like Site Builder 88 sites that offered free hosting, but probably were injecting malware into my computer. So it's been a long time, and I just learned by copy pasting stuff. And then I kind of shifted to an interest in games, and then I shifted to a now abandoned interest in like startups and technology when I was in high school. And now I'm trying to do more browser stuff, which I think has always been the heart of what I've been doing. For sound stuff, this is very emerging. I'm interested in like playing with samples, and I field record a lot as a hobby, not as much lately, but just like love going out into the forest or graveyard with a microphone and recording birds. And I just wanted to like begin incorporating that into works. And I thought that sample looping and playing with synthesizers and like ambient sound practices would be really nice to add, because it also feels like very generative and temporary in nature. And I combine that to thinking about internet ambient. For my heroines, one of my poetic inspirations I should mention is I love this Filipino poet named Conchitina Cruz, or Chingby Cruz. It's probably like my biggest like Filipino literary influence. An amazing like feminist writer.
Another question just came in on the chat. It says by Peter Van. It says it would be interesting to know the setup of soft and hardware you use for this performance. Thank you.
Yeah. A brief rundown of it is I'm running a synthesizer and a pedal through a mixer with the TX6 mixer connected by Teenage Engineer connected to my laptop. And then I get the input from that through Ableton. And I'm just sharing, I think, desktop sound from my screen, so that's how it picks up the Ableton input. I'm not sure if that's what's picking it up because I tried like 10 different configurations before this. And then, I mean, the software that you saw, aside from that, is just like my websites.
Mhm. And I have another question from Saint Leon too. Says, I have a question for Chia. Do you tend to work in sprints or marathons? Does that inform how your process manifests?
That's a good question. For the we are only moving towards each other piece, I unfortunately worked on it in like one sprint. Like I worked on this over a weekend. It was like very frantic. I wanted to get like a message out, and it was like holiday break, so got it out very quickly. And for these other pieces, I'm like adding on to them constantly. So I'll make like one sequence here. You can see that there were like different like themes and dreams that I went through. I'll do at least a couple of those in a single session. So I'd say it's a mix, but a lot of my work tend to be like a lot of individual pieces worked on in sprints that are still, I guess, pretty hefty, and that I compose into like larger pieces now has been my general theme.
Wonderful. Then I think if nobody has a burning question, I guess that we can now let the artist go to sleep before she is up again for the future.
I just wanted to ask you without spoiling it, but if you could tell us a little bit of what you are planning for our Twitch channel on the upcoming days. You mentioned a little bit of like more interaction with the audience, but is there anything else you can tell us?
Yeah, for sure. I shared a bit of it during my performance, but I have a large like work in progress piece that is, I don't know, I call it like a dream sequence or something. You saw portions of it in the performance here. So I'm gonna be developing kind of new themes for it. You saw like one of teeth falling out. You saw one of falling. These are a bunch of like mini vignettes and like narratives that are told through this like format of browser pop-ups. So on Twitch, I'll be premiering like new sequences of these, and the audience is welcome to make the dreams more nightmarish and chaotic, or contribute to what dream should be dreamed. You'll see how to do that on Twitch soon.
Nice, really exciting. And I can see also like Kendan is mentioning that is excited. Also, can't wait for the Twitch performances. So yeah, we hope that our audience also joins you on Twitch on the upcoming days. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we would like to also thank all the audiences and all the audience members who joined us today on Zoom and on Twitch. This has been Screenwalk number 70 and the last one officially here on Zoom of the year. So thank you so much, and we wish everybody a nice end of the year, winter break, whatever you're enjoying, until we resume and see you all again on the 7th of February. So there's still going to be some time, but we hope to see you all back in Screenwalk on the 7th of February.